Chapter 11, Fixed Increase. The transaction was complete, and Su Jingzhen didn't plan to continue staying in the quiet room. He still needed to digest some things. Moreover, he remembered Shuangjiang's words about the importance of moderation in alchemy. So even though the current situation was quite pressing, he didn't plan to continue practicing tonight. The remaining 10 medicinal materials were his capital for turning his life around, and he couldn't afford to waste them. It's getting late, I'll head back to rest. You should get some rest too, young lady. After moving the alchemy furnace back to the corner, Su Jingzhen said to Shuangjiang. The latter was slightly surprised. You're not going to continue. Su Jingzhen smiled slightly. You're right, young lady. Alchemy can't be rushed. I gained some insights from your guidance earlier. I'll think it through thoroughly tonight and try again tomorrow. With that, Su Jingzhen pushed open the door and left. Seeing this, Shuangjiang's eyes showed a hint of surprise, and she nodded slightly. However, as soon as the door closed, Shuangjiang sat down on the stone bed, eager to flip through the 2 notebooks Su Jingzhen had given her. Empathy +2. Empathy +2. Empathy +2. Outside, Su Jingzhen saw the golden words flashing before his eyes, and he was overjoyed after a brief moment of stunned silence. He had expected to get some points from Shuangjiang, but he hadn't expected to get 6 points. He now had 61 points available. Cultivation, Refining Initial Stage, Second Layer, 0/200. Hint, host's Danshan is damaged, point effectiveness reduced by half. However, after taking a look at the panel, Su Jingzhen couldn't help but sigh. Breaking through to the 3rd stage of Refining would require 400 points, a daunting task. Despite this, Su Jingzhen's mood remained good. He hummed a tune as he walked back to the kitchen. At the same time, on the rooftop of a nearby house, 2 figures were hiding in the shadows, watching the school. Cancel the mission, retreat. There are other people in the school with unknown cultivation levels. Some people who walked in the darkness would never take action against the unknown. As the words fell, the 2 figures disappeared like they had never been there. In the quiet room, Shuangjiang was reading a book with a serious expression, but her eyes glanced out the window, and a hint of disdainful smile appeared on her lips. The next morning, Su Jingzhen woke up early as usual. As soon as he opened his eyes, golden words flashed before him. Days until the host's Danshan is fully destroyed, 500. This reminder was always at the top. Daily fixed empathy points, Zhangziu for Shuangjiang. 2. Remaining usable points, 67. This was a new reminder. It made him overjoyed again. Damn, it seemed that the points would increase every day. Zhangziu's empathy level bonus was 4 times, so the fixed points were 4, and Shuangjiang's cultivation bonus was 2 times, so the fixed points were 2. This was easy to understand. Getting such a surprise early in the morning made Su Jingzhen's mood even better. However, he didn't have money to buy medicinal materials for Shuangjiang today. After tidying up, he practiced in the courtyard for a while, waiting quietly for the children to arrive. Good morning, Mr. Su. Not long after, a beautiful 11 or 12-year-old girl in a white dress walked into the school, respectfully greeting Su Jingzhen. Good morning, Enning Yao. Su Jingzhen smiled back, and this little girl was sister-in-law Zhangziu's daughter. She was also his most satisfactory student at the moment. He had a feeling that this time, Enning Yao would definitely awaken her spiritual roots. As the little girl was about to enter the classroom, Su Jingzhen asked, "Has your mother returned?" He knew that the situation in the city might be a bit precarious, and he was worried about sister-in-law Zhangziu. Mother said she had to go out yesterday, but she still hadn't returned when I came here. Enning Yao replied, her tone not showing any worry. Sister-in-law Zhangziu had protected her very well, and at her age she was still unaware of the cruelty of the cultivation world. Su Jingzhen nodded, deep in thought. Originally, Su Jingzhen had 25 students, but today, only 19 people had arrived at the school by the start of class. It was unprecedented for his students to be late. Su Jingzhen furrowed his brow again, and a sense of unease grew in his heart. The remaining students didn't show up, and it was easy to guess why. 6 students were missing, and Su Jingzhen suddenly lost the motivation to continue teaching. Chen Chong, I'll remember your name in my little book. You'll have to pay back what you owe sooner or later. Su Jingzhen muttered to himself. Losing 6 students was a small matter, but it made Su Jingzhen sense a hint of crisis again. Kuliu Alley was strong overall, but it was still difficult to intervene in Peach Blossom Alley. But they had managed to do so, proving their determination to integrate the school. Thinking about it, Su Jingzhen walked into the classroom and said to the children, "In a few days, you'll be going to Huiyang sect to participate in the Spiritual Roots Awakening ceremony. You can take a break and relax for a few days. It's better than attending classes here. Review the lessons from yesterday on your own today, and don't come back tomorrow. We'll meet again at Huiyang sect on the day of the Awakening ceremony." When the children heard Su Jingzhen's words, they were overjoyed. "Yes. Goodbye, Mr. Su." They cheered and bid farewell to Su Jingzhen before running off. Seeing this, Su Jingzhen shook his head and sighed, thinking that not having to attend classes was always a huge surprise for children, no matter what world they were in. "Goodbye, Mr. Su." Enning Yao, the first to arrive, was the last to leave, and she slightly bowed to Su Jingzhen. Although she was young, she was already quite mature, and seemed to have a sense of understanding that didn't belong to her age. "Be careful on your way home, and wait for your mother to return," Su Jingzhen specifically reminded her. "I know, thank you, Mr. Su." Enning Yao bowed to Su Jingzhen again before leaving. Su Jingzhen nodded, feeling more and more satisfied with this girl. This girl's Spiritual Roots Awakening ceremony is coming up, and I wonder what kind of spiritual roots she'll awaken. It's quite exciting. Huiyang sect held a Spiritual Roots Awakening ceremony every year for children of a certain age, which was known as the Awakening ceremony. If a child had decent spiritual roots qualifications, they would be recruited as a disciple by Huiyang sect on the spot. If they had a mysterious single spiritual root or even dual spiritual roots, they would have a chance to be recruited as an inner sect disciple. Su Jingzhen had high expectations for Enning Yao. If Enning Yao could become an inner sect disciple of Huiyang sect, and he, as her mentor, would have a strong backing, it would be impossible for Chen Chong to touch this school. Although the school was already on the verge of collapse, and he, Su Jingzhen, had lost interest in it. But there was a difference between closing the school himself and being forced to do so by others. Being bullied to this extent, he still wanted to fight back. He had always yearned for a quiet and peaceful life, but when faced with these challenges, he was willing to accept them. Enning Yao might be one of his trump cards. Closing the classroom door, Su Jingzhen headed towards the quiet room. He had rested well last night and was in high spirits. He felt that the alchemy matter was also settled. As he approached the quiet room door, he instinctively knocked on it. However, before his hand touched the door, it opened by itself. "Did you leave the door open for me?" Su Jingzhen's heart skipped a beat as he pushed the door open. Xianxia was sitting on the stone bed, not cultivating, and her facial injuries had almost fully healed. It seemed that she would be fully recovered in a few days. Her condition seemed to have improved compared to yesterday. Seeing this, Su Jingzhen's heart was slightly anxious. He knew that he couldn't keep Xianxia here, and once she recovered, she would leave. At first, he had hoped that Xianxia would leave as soon as possible, but now he was reluctant to let her go. He still wanted to earn more points from Xianxia. "Miss Xianxia, your condition has improved significantly. I suppose you won't be able to stay here for much longer, will you?" Su Jingzhen asked casually. Xianxia raised an eyebrow. "What, are you trying to drive me away?" No, Miss Xianxia, I didn't mean that. This place is not small, and I'm used to living alone, but it's nice to have you as company." Su Jingzhen hurriedly explained, sensing that Xianxia's tone was not friendly. He had just been testing her, and if she really left because of this, it would be a loss. Xianxia let out a soft hum, but didn't pursue the topic further. She then asked, "Are you going to refine a pill? I saw the situation at your school. Do you need my help in dealing with those people? It's a way to repay you for saving my life." As she spoke, there was a hint of expectation in her eyes. Although she had taught Su Jingzhen some alchemy knowledge yesterday, it was still not enough to repay the debt of gratitude. If she helped him solve his current predicament, it might be enough to clear the debt. And then she could leave without any further obligations. She estimated that, in her current state, it wouldn't be difficult to quietly take out a chirofining stage cultivator. Su Jingzhen was stunned, looking at Xianxia, and then smiled. No need, I should be able to handle these things myself. He naturally understood Xianxia's intentions. What he wanted now was to keep Xianxia by his side. Xianxia was an incredible leg up, and even if she wanted to repay him, it wouldn't be worth using on someone like Chen Chong. Xianxia nodded lightly, not forcing the issue. She had just been momentarily excited, and Su Jingzhen's refusal didn't make her want to take action. But she thought about the 2 notebooks he had given her last night. She didn't want to owe him too much, either. At least she didn't want Su Jingzhen, a kind and foolish person, to die unnecessarily. Xianxia continued, I can't think of how you can deal with the hidden dangers with your current cultivation level. Perhaps your situation is more dangerous than you think. She knew that Su Jingzhen must not have discovered the assassins last night. Your current chirofining initial stage cultivation is weak and vulnerable in the cultivation world. You can't really think that the woman who came yesterday will always be able to protect you, can you? Xianxia's words were laced with sarcasm. Su Jingzhen, who had just moved the alchemy furnace to the center of the quiet room, frowned again upon hearing this. It was normal for Xianxia, with her cultivation level, to be able to sense some things that he didn't know about. What do you mean, miss? Su Jingzhen's expression turned slightly serious. Xianxia's lips curved up, but the smile pulled on her facial injuries, making it look quite unpleasant. She said, literally, if I weren't here, you might have been a corpse last night. Su Jingzhen's heart skipped a beat. Although he hadn't known Xianxia for long, he knew her personality, and even if she wanted to repay him, she wouldn't intentionally try to scare him. But what can I do? Although I can try my best to defend myself, the reality is that I'm not in control of everything. I can only do my best, and the outcome is not up to me. Su Jingzhen's words were extremely sincere. Xianxia, however, fell silent. She was used to looking at problems from a high perspective, but she had neglected the fact that this was the lower levels of the cultivation world, where many people were like Su Jingzhen, unable to control their own fate. She let out a soft sigh. At the same time, Su Jingzhen was stunned. Empathy +2. Empathy +2. He hadn't expected that his casual words would cause such a drastic change in Xianxia's emotions. And he had gained 4 points again. Remaining usable points, 71. He was excited, but seeing that Xianxia didn't intend to speak again, Su Jingzhen lightly patted the alchemy furnace. His mood quickly calmed down. These 4 points were an unexpected surprise today, but his top priority was still alchemy. He started a fire, sensed the medicinal materials, and followed the steps, and Su Jingzhen's face returned to its usual calm state. Xianxia sat on the stone bed, silently watching. She could see that Su Jingzhen, after entering his focused state, was different from yesterday. She saw Su Jingzhen carefully placing the medicinal materials into the alchemy furnace, controlling the miniature array on the furnace to manipulate the flames. Each step looked a bit rough, but there were no major mistakes. And there was no repeat of yesterday's failure from the start. Before long, a faint medicinal aroma wafted through the quiet room. Did it really succeed? Xianxia was slightly surprised. Su Jingzhen patted the alchemy furnace, and a rough, elliptical chiroplenishing pill flew out. It's a defective product. Su Jingzhen excitedly presented it to Xianxia, as if showing off. In a small place like Linjiang City, a defective chiroplenishing pill was still sellable. Although the defective chiroplenishing pill had some drawbacks, it still had a certain medicinal effect, and there were always people who didn't care about their own foundation. This thing could also save lives at critical moments. Su Jingzhen estimated that this defective chiroplenishing pill could be sold for 2 lower-grade spirit stones, and the cost of the medicinal materials was only 1 low-grade spirit stone, so he was already making a profit.
Okay.
Shuangjiang nodded emotionlessly, still looking aloof. Empathy +2. But the sudden increase in points still revealed her emotions. Su Jingzhen saw that his remaining usable points had increased to 73, and he knew that Shuangjiang must have acknowledged him. His confidence was boosted even more. The excited emotions were quickly suppressed, and he looked at the remaining 9 medicinal materials, entering that state again. In the following time, the quiet room was filled with the aroma of medicinal materials. An hour later, Su Jingzhen had used up all the remaining 9 medicinal materials. 3 defective products, 6 successful ones. Adding the first one, all 10 medicinal materials had succeeded without a single failure. The fire in the furnace died out, and Su Jingzhen looked at the neatly arranged 10 chireplenishing pills, feeling a sense of wonder. Accompanied by this was an overwhelming joy. Being able to refine chireplenishing pills with such a high success rate marked his official debut as an alchemist. Pills are divided into 9 grades, and chireplenishing pill is just the lowest grade. Hence, Su Jingzhen was only a first-grade alchemist. But from this moment on, his status was incomparable. Though not completely turning the tables, at least the problem of spirit stones could be solved solely by selling chireplenishing pills. Empathy +2. Empathy +2. Empathy +2. Returning to his senses, Su Jingzhen just noticed that there had been 3 changes in points during the alchemy process. Remaining available points, 79. Congratulations, I didn't expect you to refine pills so quickly, and your success rate seems a bit exaggerated. At this moment, Shuangjiang's voice sounded, with a hint of surprise. In her opinion, discounting the 4 subpar pills, a 60% success rate was still terrifying. After all, Su Jingzhen was just a rookie yesterday. This kid's talent in alchemy is truly exceptional, and he's still like a raw gemstone. If I introduce him to her, he might become a great talent. As Shuangjiang thought like this, her perception of Su Jingzhen changed again. Empathy +2. The slight admiration Shuangjiang had for Su Jingzhen in her heart instantly turned into actual points, manifesting in front of Su Jingzhen. This directly pushed his usable points to 81. Su Jingzhen became even more excited, thinking that at this rate, he would be able to accumulate 200 points in no time, maybe not even in 2 days. As long as he could solve the Danshan problem, breaking through to the 3rd layer of Kai refinement would be a breeze. But as he thought about it, Su Jingzhen felt a sense of helplessness. The Danshan situation was not going to be easy to resolve. If he didn't have enough strength, he would still be in a precarious situation. All the troubles came from lacking the strength. The mysterious wooden spiritual roots had allowed him to easily reach the level of a first-rate alchemist, and he didn't have to worry about spirit stones anymore. However, his initial Kai refinement cultivation still didn't give him any sense of security. Perhaps if he went to report his identity as a first-rate alchemist to the Huiyang sect, they would value and provide special protection. That way he could be carefree. But he would also become a puppet alchemist of the Huiyang sect, losing his freedom completely. Being an alchemist was prestigious, but without corresponding strength to back it up, it was just a tool. Previously, earning spirit stones was the top priority, but now he had to consider the Danshan problem. After thinking for a moment, Su Jingzhen's gaze fixed intently on Shuangjiang. Miss Shuangjiang, I want to ask you something. Shuangjiang was slightly surprised. Su Jingzhen should have been happy about the successful alchemy, but she could sense that his emotions were becoming increasingly heavy. You speak, she responded calmly. Su Jingzhen continued, Miss Shuangjiang, you're knowledgeable and experienced. Do you know what kind of elixir is needed to repair a damaged Danshan? At this time, Su Jingzhen still subconsciously wanted to solve the problem with pills. Upon hearing this, Shuangjiang furrowed her brow. She gazed at Su Jingzhen with a hint of shock in her eyes. Then she directly reached out and grabbed Su Jingzhen's hand, probing with a thread of spiritual energy. Shuangjiang's expression changed drastically. I didn't expect your Danshan to be damaged to this extent. She had thought Su Jingzhen was just a poor, low-level cultivator, but it turned out he was a pitiful one. Previously, she had only sensed that Su Jingzhen's cultivation was at the initial Kai refinement stage, but she hadn't paid attention to his danshan. With your current state, you're still able to maintain your cultivation at the second layer of Kai refinement, which is already a miracle. After expressing her astonishment, Shuangjiang continued, if it were just a minor injury, there would be many ways to repair it, and I could do it during my prime, but for your case, it would require a miracle. Shuangjiang wouldn't sugarcoat her words, only speaking the truth. Su Jingzhen's eyebrows slightly furrowed, but his expression didn't change much. He knew his own situation, and Shuangjiang was only confirming it for him. A miracle, did the system count as one? The system had appeared, and Su Jingzhen naturally believed that miracles existed. He had always believed that with the golden finger, his danshan problem would be solved within 500 days. Seeing Su Jingzhen's calm expression, Shuangjiang felt a pang of sympathy. In her eyes, Su Jingzhen was probably scared silly. But before she could say anything, Su Jingzhen asked again, if I want to increase my strength, is there no other way? At this time, Su Jingzhen's tone was extremely sincere. Seeing this, Shuangjiang retracted her sarcastic remark. After a moment of serious thought, she said, it's not that there's no other way, cultivation isn't just limited to one path. It's just that the other paths are much more difficult compared to Kai refinement. Do you know about spirit cultivation and body cultivation? Su Jingzhen's heart stirred, and he naturally knew about body refinement, but he had never seen it in Linjiang City. Shuangjiang continued, cultivators can be broadly divided into 3 schools, Kai refinement, body refinement, and spirit refinement. However, this era is the era of Kai refinement, and body refinement and spirit refinement require too many resources, which don't fit well with this era. Even though there are some body refinement and spirit refinement practitioners, most of them are using incomplete, low-level techniques and can't produce truly strong cultivators. Su Jingzhen's mind was suddenly filled with thoughts. The environment he was in previously was too low-level, and these were all new concepts he had never heard of. At this time, his thoughts became more active. Cultivation is already difficult, and many people with spiritual roots struggle to improve their Kai refinement, who would choose the even more difficult paths of body refinement and spirit refinement. It's survival of the fittest. As the environment for cultivation changes, it's normal for these 2 schools to decline. Shuangjiang sighed again. It takes 10 to 100 times more effort to reach the extreme, but it's still no match for the ease of Kai refinement. Unless there's no other choice, who would take these 2 paths? As she spoke, Shuangjiang gazed at Su Jingzhen, whose danshan was almost completely broken, but had given her the opportunity to repay her life-saving debt. In your current state, if you want to increase your strength, you can only choose spirit refinement or body refinement. As an alchemist, your mental strength is not bad, and you're more suited to take the path of spirit refinement. But the spirit refinement techniques I know are only half-baked and incomplete. However, I do know of a body refinement technique that's not bad, but you're too weak and fragile to cultivate it. Finally, Shuangjiang had found an opportunity to clear her debt with Su Jingzhen, and she was no longer as cold and distant as before, speaking more freely. Su Jingzhen had indeed saved her life, and in her eyes, giving Su Jingzhen a new path was equivalent to giving him a new life. The karma was balanced, and they owed each other nothing. This danshan is so wonderfully broken. Empathy +2. Empathy +2. Did she still have some schadenfreude? The atmosphere had become quite strange, and Su Jingzhen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He looked at Shuangjiang and said, can you give me both the body refinement and spirit refinement techniques? Children make choices, but adults take everything. Apart from the golden finger, he didn't have any other resources, and he would naturally accumulate them when he had the chance. Shuangjiang was taken aback. Do you know the phrase, greedy for too much and getting nothing? Su Jingzhen nodded. I have no other intention, I just want to compare them. His words and tone were still sincere, and Shuangjiang looked at him deeply before nodding. I know of a body refinement technique called Python Scales Power that's not bad if you can cultivate it to perfection, And the spirit refinement technique is called divine wandering, but it's actually garbage. Let me get a pen and paper, and I'll copy it down for you. Su Jingzhen quickly fetched a pen and paper. He didn't know Xianxia's specific cultivation level, but he knew that someone like her, who had seen many things, would be able to remember and record them accurately. Soon, Xianxia handed Su Jingzhen the two newly copied techniques, written in her elegant handwriting, which seemed to contain a mysterious aura. Take your time to consider and decide which one to practice. This way, I'll consider my debt to you repaid, and we'll be even. Xianxia spoke again, her tone seemingly colder. The alchemy knowledge Xianxia had taught Su Jingzhen had helped him successfully become a first-rate alchemist, which had almost offset the karma from the two notebooks. They were truly even now. Su Jingzhen was stunned for a moment, a bitter smile appearing on his face. He knew that Xianxia would likely leave soon. But there was no other way. He needed these things, and Xianxia had to repay her debt. He was also satisfied, as he had gained a lot from Xianxia in the past 2 days. Just the activation of the golden finger was a guaranteed profit. After thinking for a moment, Su Jingzhen took out a white jade pendant. I know you won't stay here for long, Miss Jiang, but our encounter is still a kind of fate. I also know that your environment is even more dangerous, so no matter when you leave, please take this piece jade with you. It's not a magical tool, but it's something I've carried with me since I was young, and it represents my goodwill. After Xianxia had finished settling the karma, Su Jingzhen clearly felt that she had undergone some subtle changes. He discreetly took a glance at the golden finger panel, where Xianxia's column remained unchanged, still showing no hostility. This relieved him. However, he still needed to do something, even if it couldn't increase their emotional connection level, at least to maintain it. But if Xianxia were to see this scene, it would be. At this moment, Xianxia looked at the jade pendant handed over by Su Jingzhen, and her eyes revealed a subtle change once again. To her, a jade pendant without any energy fluctuations was no different from trash. She thought Su Jingzhen's behavior was childish, but after taking a deep breath, she still chose to accept it. Su Jingzhen's foolish yet rare innocence was something she didn't want to destroy. In a world of cultivation where one could easily become tainted, it was truly precious to maintain a pure heart. Without saying a word of thanks, Xianxia directly sat down on the stone bed to meditate. Emotional connection +2. Emotional connection +2. Emotional connection +2. However, her heart was not at peace, as reflected in the points. The golden words flashed, and the remaining usable points on the panel directly increased to 91. She was one step closer to reaching 100 points. Su Jingzhen then picked up the replenishing pill that was still placed beside the alchemy furnace. Rest well. Young lady, I'll go handle these medicinal pills. When I exchange them for spirit stones, I'll give you half. Without waiting for Xianxia's response, he walked out of the quiet room and closed the door. Emotional connection +2. Remaining usable points, 93. After exiting, the golden words flashed again. Su Jingzhen smiled faintly and quickly returned to the kitchen. He directly took out the newly acquired cultivation methods. The gloom in his heart was swept away. Although his dantian still needed to be repaired, these two cultivation methods would serve as his temporary crutch for now. With the golden finger's existence, he believed that the environment would adapt to him and bring him success. Python scales power and divine wandering. Su Jingzhen quickly grasped the essence of both cultivation methods and made a decision. Currently, I want to increase my strength as quickly as possible, and refining my body is more suitable for now. After quickly memorizing both cultivation methods, he directly destroyed them. These cultivation methods were worthless in Xianxia's eyes, but in Linjiang City, they were probably treasures. There was no possibility of exposing them. It was already noon, and Su Jingzhen didn't rush to cultivate Python scales power. He glanced at the quiet room and then walked out of the academy. Although sister-in-law Zhang Ziyu had said that the city was not peaceful recently, he couldn't just stay indoors. It was daytime, and even if someone wanted to cause trouble, they would probably restrain themselves. As soon as he walked out of the academy, he quickly slipped into a dark, deserted alley. When he emerged, he was already wearing a black robe. This was a common attire for cultivators in the cultivation world. Firstly, it maintained an air of mystery, preventing others from discovering their true identity. Secondly, it was intimidating. In Linjiang City, where the strong preyed on the weak, no one wanted to provoke a mysterious person with unknown abilities. Who knew what kind of power they possessed? After changing into this attire, Su Jingzhen headed straight for the treasure-gathering pavilion in Linjiang City. The treasure-gathering pavilion was located next to the Flower Moon Pavilion. Su Jingzhen had heard two phrases about the treasure-gathering pavilion. One, wherever cultivators gather, there is a treasure-gathering pavilion. Two, as long as you have enough spirit stones, you can buy anything you want. It was indeed that crazy. Su Jingzhen knew that these phrases might be exaggerated, but they could fully demonstrate the treasure-gathering pavilion's strength. At least, the treasure-gathering pavilion and the Flower Moon Pavilion held a superior position in Linjiang City. Su Jingzhen, dressed in black, quickly arrived at the entrance of the treasure-gathering pavilion. Along the way, his attire didn't attract any attention. Because he had already encountered 6 or 7 people dressed similarly along the way. The treasure-gathering pavilion in Linjiang City had only 3 floors, and there were no guards at the entrance, allowing anyone to enter. This also reflected their confidence. No one dared to cause trouble here. Su Jingzhen directly entered the pavilion, and the first floor was extremely spacious, with 10 transaction windows. Buying or selling both are possible. Su Jingzhen chose a window near the inner side and patiently waited in line. After about the time it took to burn an incense stick, the 3 people in front of him finally finished their transactions. Su Jingzhen, with his hat lowered, walked up to the window. He directly took out 2 jade bottles from his storage bag. Selling. Su Jingzhen said only 2 words in a hoarse voice. The female disciple of the treasure-gathering pavilion, who was sitting inside the window, took the jade bottles from Su Jingzhen with her expressionless face. As soon as she opened them, a fragrance of medicinal herbs wafted out, and her expression suddenly changed. This is a chireplenishing pill, and the other one is also a secondary product. She muttered to herself, then looked at Su Jingzhen. Do you want to sell all of them, fellow Taoist? Su Jingzhen nodded. Let's calculate the price. At this time he appeared calm and carefree, but in his heart, he was somewhat expectant. He knew that medicinal pills were expensive in the cultivation world, but he wasn't sure how many spirit stones he could get for a chireplenishing pill. Fellow Taoist, your 6 high-quality chireplenishing pills can be exchanged for 60 low-grade spirit stones. The other 4 secondary products can be exchanged for 12 low-grade spirit stones, making a total of 72 spirit stones. What do you think, fellow Taoist? The woman spoke extremely politely. She, of course, knew that someone who could take out so many chireplenishing pills at once must be an alchemist, no doubt. The treasure-gathering pavilion had an unwritten rule. No matter what, they couldn't offend alchemists, equipment refiners, and other special occupations. 72 spirit stones. I heard that the recent exploration of Clear Wind Mountain has attracted many adventurers, so the price of these medicinal pills should increase. Su Jingzhen's hoarse voice sounded again. Sister-in-law Zhang Ziyu had said that the situation on Clear Wind Mountain was very severe, and there would be fierce battles, so the demand for chireplenishing pills would be high. The woman hastily added, Fellow Taoist, I've already given you the highest price for your high-quality and secondary medicinal pills. How about this? 10 medicinal pills for a total of 75 low-grade spirit stones. What do you think? In reality, Su Jingzhen's heart was already filled with joy. This price had exceeded his expectations, and it was almost a tenfold return. No wonder alchemists had such a terrifying reputation. Su Jingzhen nodded calmly. Give me 50 low-grade spirit stones, and exchange the rest for equivalent medicinal materials. As soon as he said this, the woman was equally excited. Exchanging for medicinal materials, didn't this mean that there was a chance for long-term cooperation? Okay, fellow Taoist, please wait a moment. Before long, Su Jingzhen came out of the treasure-gathering pavilion. At this time, his storage bag already contained 50 lower-grade spirit stones and 25 portions of medicinal materials. He hadn't had such a large sum of money in a long time. He could finally solve the problem of rent, and even now he still felt a bit dreamy. The future looked promising. Mr. Let's Play. Just as he was feeling excited, a soft, sweet voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Su Jingzhen subconsciously turned his head to look back. He saw a group of heavily made-up women on the second floor of the adjacent building, smiling coyly at him. Flower Moon Pavilion, the largest brothel in Linjiang City. Its reputation was on par with the treasure-gathering pavilion, and the female cultivators there were also exceptional. Not long after he had crossed over, Su Jingzhen had also gone there to listen to music. However, after struggling to pay his rent, he hadn't gone back. Now, with 50 lower-grade spirit stones in his pocket, looking at the alluring figures of the female cultivators, Su Jingzhen's heart was slightly stirred. But after thinking about it, he shook his head and left with a bitter smile. Although it's human nature to have desires, but for Su Jingzhen, time was currently very precious. He shouldn't waste it here. Su Jingzhen walked along the main street of Linjiang City towards Peach Blossom Alley. At this time, two figures suddenly rushed out of a dark alley in front of him. One of them was covered in blood, gasping for breath and frantically fleeing. But just as they escaped to the middle of the main street, they were caught up by the flying sword of the person behind. A sword pierced through the heart. This scene unfolded just 10 meters away from Su Jingzhen. Although there were still many people on the street, it sent chills down his spine. Murder on the street in broad daylight. Over the past 2.5 years, Su Jingzhen had basically been living in Peach Blossom Alley. Linjiang City's order had always been very good, and such a thing had never happened before. Su Jingzhen stopped in his tracks, standing with a dozen or so cultivators on the main street. Everyone was silently watching. They saw the black-robed cultivator calmly walk up, retrieve his flying sword from the corpse, and then take the storage bag from the dead body. Then he slowly walked back into the dark alley. From start to finish, he was extremely calm, as if killing someone was no big deal. That guy just now seemed to be a demonic cultivator. He had a faint aura of demonic energy on him when he attacked. Only demonic cultivators would be so ruthless and disregard the rules of Huiyang sect. I didn't think demonic cultivators would dare to appear so openly in Linjiang City. Until the black-robed figure completely disappeared from view, the surrounding cultivators began to whisper to each other. Each of their faces revealed a hint of fear. These low-level cultivators were clearly terrified. In the cultivation world, there were many demonic sects, and their cultivation methods were often extremely ruthless and unscrupulous, not tolerated by orthodox cultivators. However, many demonic cultivators were extremely powerful. So, although the orthodox and demonic paths were mutually exclusive, over the long years, the two sides had maintained a precarious balance. Su Jingzhen knew that in Qingzhou, where Linjiang City was located, there was a powerful demonic sect called the Evil Moon Sect. He let out a sigh, knowing that the situation in Linjiang City was likely more chaotic than Zhang Ziyu had told him. As he was lost in thought, several cultivators had already walked up to the corpse to take a look. This seems to be Wang Feng, a fellow from Listening Rain Alley. After recognizing the deceased, the expressions of the cultivators on the main street changed again. Wang Feng, a person who had reached the late stage of Kai refinement, was a small figure in Linjiang City. Because of his cultivation, he was also working for Huiyang sect, just like Zhang Ziyu. Someone took out a talisman from Wang Feng's hand. Wang Feng didn't even have time to use his distress symbol. The person let out a shocked sigh, and a thread of spiritual energy entered the talisman. Suddenly, a burst of smoke and fire rose into the air. This was a major incident, and only Huiyang sect's strong cultivators could handle it. Wang Feng, who had reached the late stage of Kai refinement, was killed with a single sword strike, and the killer's cultivation might have reached the foundation establishment stage. They could only do this much. The distress symbol used was Wang Feng's, and even if Huiyang sect's strong cultivators came to investigate, it had nothing to do with them. As the smoke and fire rose into the air, Su Jingzhen quietly retreated from the crowd. If Huiyang sect's people came, they would definitely investigate one by one, and he didn't want to reveal his identity. On his way back, Su Jingzhen was even more cautious, and the spirit stones he had earned earlier now felt heavier in his heart. The order established by Huiyang sect was fragile like paper in the eyes of those powerful strong cultivators. A Kai refinement late-stage strong cultivator could be killed, and he, a Kai refinement initial-stage cultivator, was even more in danger. He once again deeply realized the importance of strength. Fortunately, no one noticed him as he walked back to Peach Blossom Alley. At the corner, he changed back into his previous clothes. Only when he returned to the academy did he finally let out a sigh of relief. As he walked through the courtyard, he glanced at the quiet room with its closed door, but Su Jingzhen didn't choose to disturb it. He silently returned to the kitchen. He sat on a small stool, thinking about his current situation again. On the spirit stone's aspect, he didn't need to worry, but in terms of safety, he was still far from enough. Demonic cultivators dared to kill on the street, and who could guarantee that Chen Chong and others wouldn't come to harm him? After all, Shuangjiang's previous words had already sounded a warning bell for him. Practice the Python scale's power. After a long silence, he muttered to himself. The cultivation method of Python scales power automatically flashed through his mind. Body cultivation was a way to cultivate the power of the flesh, opening up the secrets of the human body. According to the principles of body cultivation, every acupoint in the human body was a secret repository, and if one could unlock it, they could gain immense power. However, in the current cultivation environment, unlocking the secrets of the human body was extremely difficult, and most body cultivation methods only allowed one to cultivate a strong physique and slightly stimulate the power of the flesh. Moreover, the hardships and time required to achieve this were not something that could be easily explained to others. But he, Su Jingzhen, had the golden finger, so he wouldn't need to go through the same hardships as ordinary body cultivation practitioners. All his confidence came from the golden finger. Since he had decided to cultivate his body and had obtained the corresponding method, his emotional connection points would naturally increase with his cultivation progress. With this thought, the panel opened. As expected, a new sub-panel appeared. Body cultivation, none. Flesh level, mortal body, 9 layers. Secret repositories to unlock, Labor Palace, 0/100. Seeing this panel, Su Jingzhen couldn't help but sigh. It seemed that Shuangjiang's words about him being weak and fragile weren't without reason. When he saw the panel, he automatically understood the information on it. Mortal body, 9 layers, meant that his current physical strength was still at a mortal level. Not just him, but most Kai-refining stage cultivators' physical strength was also at this level. Although he was considered top-notch among mortals, it was still a result of being nourished by spiritual energy in the cultivation world. But when he saw the line about unlocking secret repositories, he suddenly became excited. Although it was difficult to develop the secrets of the human body in this cultivation environment, with the golden finger, these were not problems for him. As long as the points are sufficient, I'm afraid any acupoint can be dug out. I currently have 93 points, and I'm just 7 points away from directly developing the Labor Palace acupoint. I wonder how much my physical strength will increase if I can dig out the hidden treasures in my body. Su Jingzhen muttered to himself, stretching out his right hand in anticipation. According to Shuangjiang, many so-called body cultivation methods only focus on external training of muscles and bones, and even fail to develop the hidden treasures within the body. But if one can develop the hidden treasures, it will be a qualitative leap. The Labor Palace acupoint is located on the palm of the right hand, and this will be the starting point for his body refinement. Thinking of this, Su Jingzhen's gaze involuntarily turned towards the direction of the quiet room. No matter what, I need to go and serve Shuangjiang first, earn those 7 points, and then we'll talk. After realizing this, Su Jingzhen directly headed towards the quiet room. He still instinctively knocked on the door. However, this time the door didn't open, and there was no response from inside. Su Jingzhen's heart skipped a beat, and he had a bad premonition. "Miss Jiang, are you there?" As his words fell, the quiet room remained silent. Su Jingzhen's heart grew more complicated, and he directly pushed open the door. At a glance, the room was empty. The alchemy furnace was still in the corner, and the stone bed had his set of sky-blue clothes neatly laid out. Gone! Su Jingzhen had actually predicted this outcome from the time he sent the jade pendant, but when it really happened, he still felt a pang of disappointment. Although he had only spent a short time with Xianxia, he had gained a lot from her. It's just cause and effect, but I wonder if we'll have another chance to meet in this vast cultivation world. He sighed, and after a moment of sentiment, he didn't dwell on it anymore. He brought up the interface, and at least Xianxia's panel was still there, which was a small comfort. After feeling sentimental for a moment, Su Jingzhen quickly regained his composure, a bitter smile spreading across his face. "Xianxia is gone, and my sister-in-law doesn't know when she'll return. I'm still short of 7 points, and I don't know when I'll be able to make up for it." Currently, the only ones who had a shared emotional connection with him were Zhang Ziyu and Xianxia, but now both of them were gone, leaving him feeling stuck. This feeling of being just one step away from a breakthrough was frustrating. Oh well, I guess I can't completely rely on the golden finger. After thinking for a moment, Su Jingzhen still brought out the alchemy furnace from the corner. Xianxia's departure had made him realize that the golden finger, although it had made him a hanging precipice, was not omnipotent. Since the golden finger awakened, he had developed a psychological dependence on it. To the point that when he couldn't get points, he had a brief feeling of helplessness just now. This was a terrifying phenomenon. After realizing this, he let out a bitter laugh and adjusted his mindset. He directly took out the 25 medicinal materials from his storage bag and placed them on the table. As his hands touched the medicinal materials, his heart quickly calmed down. He sensed the medicinal materials and lit the furnace. After a series of processes, the quiet room was once again filled with the fragrance of alchemy. Today, he directly produced a finished product on his first attempt at refining the chireplenishing pill. He was getting more skilled at refining the pill, and his speed had also increased significantly. By the time the sun began to set, he had used up 10 sets of medicinal materials. However, this time, the 10 sets of medicinal materials had yielded 8 finished products and 2 defective ones. This success rate was even higher than before. Once I use up the remaining 15 sets of medicinal materials, the success rate of the chireplenishing pill will likely approach 100%, Su Jingzhen exclaimed in excitement. According to today's prices, his harvest was worth 86 lower-grade spirit stones. He couldn't help but feel that making spirit stones as an alchemist was too easy. However, his excitement was also somewhat one-sided. At this time, Su Jingzhen didn't know that a normal first-rate alchemist's success rate was around 30–40%, and a 10–20% success rate was already considered normal for a first-rate alchemist. So alchemists were indeed wealthy, but not as exaggerated as he thought. He casually placed the refined pills into 2 jade bottles. Perhaps next time I sell them, I'll buy a formula to increase my physical strength. In his opinion, after Xianxia left, the difficulty of obtaining points would undoubtedly increase greatly. He would need to struggle for 2 more days to accumulate enough points to open up the Labor Palace acupunt. But he couldn't rely solely on the golden finger. He also needed to work hard to push his Python scale's power to a higher level. As night began to fall, Su Jingzhen didn't choose to continue refining pills. According to Xianxia, the academy should have been visited by assassins last night. Last night, Xianxia was still there, and there was no need to worry. But what if they came again tonight? Su Jingzhen's face turned serious, and he put away the alchemy furnace. He directly changed into the black robes he wore during the day, and closed the doors to the quiet room and kitchen. Then he jumped up onto the roof beam. As a chirefining stage cultivator, this height was easy for him. He found a beam under the eaves and quietly settled in. His line of sight allowed him to see the academy's quiet room and the entire courtyard. Tonight, he planned to spend the night here. After witnessing the murder on the street during the day, it was better to be cautious. After all, life was precious, and once you died, everything would be lost. If assassins came, even if he was discovered, he could still see them coming. He might be mistaken for a fellow practitioner if he dressed up. The night passed quickly. Although he had been in a state of half sleep and half vigilance, fortunately, the previous night had been calm. There are 499 days left until the host's dantian is permanently shattered. At dawn, when Su Jingzhen jumped down from the roof beam, he saw a few lines of golden text flashing before his eyes. Daily fixed emotional points, Xianxia for Shuangjiang. 2. Remaining usable points, 99. The fixed points had arrived as expected. He was just 1 point short of developing the first hidden treasure in his body. After changing back into his regular clothes, Su Jingzhen walked to the peach blossom tree in the courtyard. He took a few deep breaths, and then the cultivation method of the python scale's power appeared in his mind again. His hands and feet, as well as his entire body, began to move slowly and awkwardly. Sometimes he was as soft and flexible as a snake, and sometimes as strong and rigid as a python. Before he could even finish the entire set of movements, Su Jingzhen was already drenched in sweat. His body was in agony, with pain radiating from every part of him. With his current physical abilities, he couldn't even complete one set of movements. After stopping, he could clearly feel every cell in his body coming alive. After a brief rest, he repeated the movements again. But after only 4 repetitions, he was completely exhausted and unable to move. However, Su Jingzhen's heart was racing with excitement. No wonder even Shuangjiang felt that this body cultivation method was extraordinary. He felt that if he continued to practice, the benefits would far exceed his imagination. Just as he was exhausted, the academy's main gate suddenly echoed with a hurried knocking sound. Su Jingzhen's spirit tensed up again, thinking, "Oh no, someone's here." But the next moment, when a pleasant voice rang out, his heart completely relaxed. "Mr. Su, are you home?" The voice was none other than Xianxia, Su Jingzhen's sister-in-law. Xianxia was always able to put Su Jingzhen's mind at ease. "Sister-in-law, I'm here," Su Jingzhen hastily responded. The door of the academy was pushed open, and Xianxia, clad in black, appeared before Su Jingzhen's eyes. However, her face seemed to bear a hint of fatigue. Behind her stood 2 men with solemn expressions. After pushing open the door, Xianxia glanced around, spotting Su Jingzhen sitting under the peach blossom tree. Her expression suddenly brightened, and she hastened over. "Are you okay?" Her first words were filled with concern. Xianxia gazed at Su Jingzhen, who was sitting on the ground, and felt that something was off. Su Jingzhen's heart was complex, but he smiled and said, "I'm just a broken book, what could possibly happen to me? On the other hand, sister-in-law, you've been busy lately, have you gotten any results from Clear Wind Mountain?" Su Jingzhen casually asked, following the conversation. But he didn't expect that this question would trigger a response. Emotional connection +4. Remaining usable points, 103. Su Jingzhen was stunned, thinking that his question was just a normal inquiry. But it seemed to have triggered an emotional response from his sister-in-law. Considering their current emotional connection level, Su Jingzhen felt a mix of complex and shameful emotions. However, these 4 points were crucial to him at this moment. Upon hearing Su Jingzhen's words, Xianxia subconsciously turned her head to glance at the 2 men who had accompanied her. They were silently searching every room in the Enlightenment School. Su Jingzhen furrowed his brow. Xianxia, however, shook her head at him. The situation in Linjiang City is becoming increasingly complicated. Yesterday, Wang Feng from the Listening Rain Alley was killed by a demonic cultivator, and Huyang sect is furious. These 2 are disciples from the Huyang sect. I'm responsible for bringing them to investigate Peach Blossom Alley, so don't worry about it. Xianxia was afraid that Su Jingzhen might not understand the situation and would inadvertently provoke the Huyang sect, getting himself into unnecessary trouble. Such a thing has happened. Su Jingzhen's face revealed a hint of shock. Zhang Ziyu was about to respond when the two Huiyang sect disciples finished searching the academy's few rooms. They headed out the door, never once glancing at Su Jingzhen. They, of course, knew about the existence of Su Jingzhen, a bookworm in Peach Blossom Alley, but Su Jingzhen's early-stage cultivation was beneath their notice. They lacked even the slightest interest in conversing with him. Wait until sister-in-law finishes this matter, and we'll talk later. Remember what your sister-in-law had said, don't go out unless necessary. Zhang Ziyu hastily instructed Su Jingzhen before hurrying after the two Huiyang sect disciples. As the responsible person for Peach Blossom Alley, it was her duty. Until Zhang Ziyu and the others left, Su Jingzhen remained seated on the ground. However, the shock on his face had already dissipated, replaced by a thoughtful expression. Heha Huiyang sect is furious. Su Jingzhen sneered at the information Zhang Ziyu had just provided. If they were truly furious, wouldn't they have investigated thoroughly yesterday, instead of waiting until now? That demonic cultivator that killed Wang Feng, a late-stage cultivator, with one sword strike, wouldn't just sit idly by waiting for Huiyang sect to catch them. Su Jingzhen's thoughts were racing, and in an instant he realized that this was just a show put on by Huiyang sect for the other cultivators in Linjiang City. The demonic cultivator was definitely uncatchable, but at least they had to maintain the appearance of order. This was also good, as Huiyang sect's high-profile investigation would serve as a deterrent. At least some actions targeting him might be temporarily suspended, and who would dare to take the lead in causing trouble, fearing Huiyang sect's wrath? Even Chen Chong's power might not dare to offend this taboo. After accumulating some energy on the spot, Su Jingzhen stood up and returned to his quiet room. He sat on the meditation cushion, casting aside other distractions, and focused on the panel. Looking at the remaining 103 points, Su Jingzhen couldn't help but feel delighted. He had thought he would have to wait until tomorrow, but it seemed he could open the first human body secret repository a day earlier. He didn't hesitate at all. He directly added 100 points to body cultivation. Without noticing the changes on the panel, in that instant, Su Jingzhen felt a surge of heat emanating from the center of his right palm. It was as if all his internal power was converging on his right palm. It seemed to have become the core of his entire body. Within a few seconds, he suddenly felt the power in the Labor Palace acupoint in his palm begin to flow through his entire body along the meridians. Su Jingzhen only felt his entire body warm up. Every cell seemed to have been nourished. It was an indescribable feeling. But he knew that his body had been strengthened in that instant. When the internal changes ceased, Su Jingzhen finally felt as if his right hand felt slightly different. His attention was once again focused on the body cultivation sub-panel. Body cultivation opened a secret repository. Flesh body level, flesh body mysterious embryo, 3rd layer. Next secret repository to be unlocked, 0/200. Remaining usable points, 3. The body cultivation sub-panel was still concise, but it shocked and delighted Su Jingzhen for a while. His body cultivation was taking the correct path of opening secret repositories, unlike others who only trained their external muscles and skin. In this environment, most body cultivations were weaker than Kai cultivations, but he was different. His secret repository was opened by the golden finger, which was a perfect opening, and even if the environment didn't match, his combat power wouldn't be affected. So his current flesh body mysterious embryo at 3rd layer was equivalent to, or even surpassing, Kai cultivation at 3rd stage. He just didn't have the opportunity to verify it yet. I've heard that the ultimate goal of body cultivation is to achieve flesh body sainthood. If I can reach that step, I'll be the only one in the cultivation world. Su Jingzhen muttered to himself, and at this moment he had a small, wild ambition. Kai cultivation's ultimate goal was to become a flying immortal, body cultivation's ultimate goal was to achieve flesh body sainthood, and spirit cultivation's ultimate goal was to wander the heavens. These were the highest legends in the cultivation world. Of course, within the time limit, he still had to solve the Danshan problem, and even with the golden finger, he would rather take a more convenient Kai cultivation path. Body cultivation and spirit cultivation were ultimately just makeshift measures, at least that was his current understanding. Thinking this, Su Jingzhen stood up, and his body burst with energy. He became even more refreshed and energetic. He took off his clothes, and his body was still slightly thin. Even though he had achieved flesh-body mysterious embryo, he didn't have the terrifying muscles of other body cultivators. Su Jingzhen's body cultivation path was more advanced, and his blood and flesh power was internalized, which he appreciated more. He then tried to practice the Python scales power exercises again in his quiet room. Before long, he was drenched in sweat. However, after achieving flesh-body mysterious embryo, he was finally able to barely complete the entire set of Python scales power exercises. At this time, he could clearly feel the blood and flesh power coursing through his meridians. He could also clearly sense that his blood and flesh power were growing, albeit slowly, but it was progress he could feel. With his current practice, it would be easy to push his flesh-body mysterious embryo to the 4th layer. The future looked promising. Seeing hope and a clear direction, Su Jingzhen became even more diligent. As long as his physical strength could endure, he repeatedly practiced the Python scales power exercises. Cultivation knows no age, and when Su Jingzhen's physical strength was about to reach its limit, night fell once again. It was also at this time that Su Jingzhen's stomach suddenly growled with hunger. This feeling of hunger was something Su Jingzhen hadn't experienced in a long time. In the cultivation world, even chirofining stage cultivators didn't need food, and eating was mainly to satisfy their appetite or because the food itself had benefits for their cultivation. But this hunger he was feeling now, Su Jingzhen could understand. Cultivating Kai was about refining the spiritual energy between heaven and earth, while cultivating the body was about developing oneself, and the consumption was also internal. I need to prepare some food to support my body cultivation. Su Jingzhen went to the kitchen, which he hadn't used in a long time, except for the 2 days he had taken a break. He hadn't eaten at all. After thinking about it, he still didn't choose to go out. Nighttime in Linjiang City was undoubtedly more dangerous than daytime, and it wasn't worth risking his life for a meal. It was a critical period for his development, and Su Jingzhen wouldn't put himself in danger. Moreover, Xianxia had said she would come later, and he didn't know if she would come tonight. If she found out he wasn't there, it would be troublesome. So Su Jingzhen took out a jade bottle from his storage bag and poured out a chiroplenishing pill. Although the chiroplenishing pill was only a low-grade elixir, it could quickly restore physical strength. It had the greatest effect on Kai cultivators, but for body cultivators, it was only slightly effective. He swallowed the pill, and the elixir immediately dissolved into a warm flow that coursed through his body, dispelling the hunger he had felt earlier. The effect was good, but Su Jingzhen felt a slight pang of regret, as this had cost him 10 lower-grade spirit stones. Deciding to buy some meat tomorrow, Su Jingzhen went back to his room, just like the previous night. Although he knew it was unlikely that anything would happen tonight, it was always better to be cautious. At the Flower Moon Pavilion, in a private room, Chen Chong and Lin Ping sat facing each other. At this time, there were only the 2 of them in the room. Chen Chong poured himself a cup of wine and said slowly, "Taoist Lin, you're taking too long to get things done." Although his tone was calm, the implication of criticism was clear. Lin Ping's expression was slightly unpleasant. "Taoist Chen, it's just that the people I found were too cautious. They said they wouldn't do anything without a guarantee of success, and now I'm going to find another group, but Huyang sect has caused a stir." As he spoke, Lin Ping was also angry and frustrated. Initially, he had thought that quietly getting rid of Su Jingzhen would be a simple matter, but who would have thought it would lead to this mess? In response to Lin Ping's words, Chen Chong only smiled faintly. "I can understand, but my nephew is about to break through. If you can't even handle this, it's possible that we can only wait until the Spirit Awakening ceremony to compare results. And as for Lin Feng's matter, I'm afraid I can't help you with that." Chen Chong shook his head slightly and nodded at Lin Ping. The latter's expression was uncertain. After a moment of thought, Lin Ping downed the wine in his cup and stood up, bowing to Chen Chong. I, Lin Ping, am willing to try again. I'll take care of this matter personally, so you don't have to worry, Taoist Chen. With that, he walked out of the private room. Chen Chong looked at Lin Ping's back and smiled faintly. The future of his descendants, combined with his own future, was too enticing for Lin Ping to resist. Although Huiyang sect had caused a stir in the past 2 days, it was also a good opportunity to fish in troubled waters. He had intentionally urged Lin Ping on. He knew that Su Jingzhen's small academy had achieved remarkable results in the past 2 years, and Chen Chong didn't want to wait until the Spirit Awakening ceremony to compare results, as that would be too risky. What if the Kuiliu School children's Spirit Awakening results were not as good as Su Jingzhen's students? Wouldn't that have the opposite effect? It's best to eliminate him completely, that's the most stable option. Chen Chong sighed. If it weren't for Peach Blossom Alley being under Huiyang sect's protection, a chirofining beginner like him wouldn't need to be so troublesome. Su Jingzhen was quietly cultivating and waiting for Zhang Ziyu to arrive. However, even until midnight, Zhang Ziyu didn't show up. Just like the previous night, Su Jingzhen was subconsciously on guard as he rested on the roof. But at the deepest part of the night, a faint rustling sound came from not far away. Su Jingzhen immediately became alert. He didn't dare to move, and his gaze quietly turned towards the sound, and indeed, he saw a black-clad figure jumping down from the roof of the quiet room. Su Jingzhen's eyelids twitched. Damn it, someone had actually come at the time he thought was the safest. Luckily, he had been cautious, or he would have been caught off guard in the quiet room, which would have been very dangerous. He only caught a glimpse, and Su Jingzhen didn't know the opponent's strength. He didn't dare to act rashly. But as he looked at his right hand, he couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. If he hadn't developed the Labor Palace's secrets before, he might have already quietly escaped, even hiding at sister-in-law Zhang Ziyu house, and wouldn't have had such thoughts. Su Jingzhen tightened his black robe and finally climbed down from the eaves. He had already seen the black-clothed person push open the door of the quiet room. No matter what, he couldn't stay in this position, as it was too easy to be seen if the other person came out of the quiet room. Moreover, Su Jingzhen was not a true coward. In the past, his strength was really not good, and there was no way to change that. But now, there were some things that had to be tried. Those who knew him knew that his strength was at the initial stage of Kai refinement, and he was extremely weak. Even if they sent an assassin, it wouldn't be stronger than him. After all, the stronger one's strength, the more valuable it is. So this decision was made after careful consideration. Su Jingzhen quietly arrived at the courtyard. He picked up a brick from the edge of the eaves and didn't choose to hide. He stood directly under the peach tree in the courtyard, quietly watching the door of the quiet room that had been opened. At this moment, his appearance was that of a ruthless assassin. The black-clothed person who had entered the quiet room quickly came out, facing Su Jingzhen under the peach tree. Su Jingzhen's heart was extremely tense, but he appeared extremely calm. On the other hand, the other person was almost scared out of their wits. "Have you gotten your hands on it?" Su Jingzhen's voice was hoarse and aged. The other person was taken aback, and then relaxed slightly. It was normal for several assassins to be sent to the same target, and some employers didn't trust each other, using each other to supervise. "The target is not here, you can speak." The black-clothed person's voice was hoarse and sharp. Changing one's voice was a common tactic used by assassins to prevent their true identity from being exposed. As a fellow assassin, the black-clothed person didn't hesitate to remind him. "Are you thinking of eating alone?" Su Jingzhen's voice sounded again. The black-clothed person let out a cold snort. "You can go check for yourself, goodbye." At this critical moment, the tension was already high, and the black-clothed person didn't want to get entangled with Su Jingzhen. "I'll go check," Su Jingzhen responded, and then headed towards the quiet room. The black-clothed person let out another cold snort and prepared to leave. Since Su Jingzhen was not here, he didn't want to cause trouble, Moreover, he also couldn't gauge Su Jingzhen's strength at this moment. However, just as Su Jingzhen stepped onto the eaves, the two figures crossed paths. Su Jingzhen's right hand, which had been behind his back, suddenly moved. The brick in his hand swiftly covered the back of the black-clothed person's head. Boom! A dull thud came from the black-clothed person's head. Su Jingzhen's brick, which was held too tightly, directly shattered into powder. Of course, along with the brick, the back of the black-clothed person's head also exploded. This brick was unexpectedly effective, which Su Jingzhen had not anticipated. However, his brick attack was too sudden and too fast, and even if the black-clothed person had been prepared, they would not have been able to defend themselves in time. It could be said that the black-clothed person's initial fear of Su Jingzhen had already sealed their fate. Although Su Jingzhen clearly saw the back of the black-clothed person's head being smashed, as a cultivator, they had a strong vitality. In the blink of an eye, Su Jingzhen clenched his right fist, gathering all the blood and energy from the Labor Palace's secret acupuncts. He fiercely punched the black-clothed person's back, aiming to kill. He had no intention of leaving them alive, and both the brick and the punch were meant to be fatal. After this series of attacks, the black-clothed person fell to the ground, devoid of any signs of life. Even cultivators could die if they were severely injured. They died a quick and direct death without any suffering. Su Jingzhen's heart was tense with excitement, but also filled with excitement. For the past 2.5 years, he had been living in fear, afraid of being killed at any moment. Although this was his first time killing someone, the 2.5 years of accumulation had already allowed him to adapt to the harsh environment of the cultivation world. So after killing the black-clothed person, he felt no fear in his heart. Kill or be killed, regardless of who was behind it. At the same time, on another rooftop, another black-clothed person was approaching. At this moment, a flash of surprise crossed their eyes, and they chose to retreat quietly. Lin Ping. At this time, Su Jingzhen had already removed the black-clothed person's mask, and his heart was filled with surprise once again. He had not expected Lin Ping to personally take action against him. However, after recognizing him, Su Jingzhen's heart was also filled with a sense of relief. This guy was not a professional killer, and his vigilance and control over danger were far inferior to those of a professional killer. Su Jingzhen's ability to take him down with one brick was also crucial. If not, the situation might have been dire. After all, Lin Ping was a mid-stage Kai refining cultivator, and even though Su Jingzhen only had a 4th-layer Kai refining cultivation, it was still a mismatch. Su Jingzhen's thoughts were racing, and he came to a simple conclusion. This time he was lucky, and next time he would need to be more cautious. He couldn't afford to act impulsively like this again. This kind of adventure was enough for once. It's great to have gotten away with it, but what if something goes wrong? Su Jingzhen couldn't help but feel a sense of trepidation about the cruel world of cultivation. On the surface, people were kind and gentle, but at night, they could put on black clothes and come to assassinate you. Now is a special time, and if this guy dies in my courtyard, it'll be hard to explain. After a moment of reflection, Su Jingzhen calmed down. The corpse had to be dealt with quickly. Although the school was closed, if Huiyang sect were to investigate again, it would be disastrous. Regardless of whether it was justified or not, the fact was that Lin Ping was dead. And this guy was probably sent by Chen Chong. If he dies, Chen Chong will definitely report it to Huiyang sect. If I were Chen Chong, Lin Ping's death would actually be beneficial to me. Huiyang sect can't find the demonic cultivator, and killing me, a broken Danshan Kai refining beginner, would be a way to vent their frustration. My death would be insignificant. As someone who had lived 2 lives, Su Jingzhen saw things very clearly. If he put himself in Chen Chong's shoes, Lin Ping's attack would already mean certain death for Su Jingzhen. If Lin Ping succeeded, Su Jingzhen would die, and the demonic cultivator or others who broke Huiyang sect's rules would take the blame. If Lin Ping died, Chen Chong would use his connections with Huiyang sect, and Su Jingzhen would still be doomed. Even if he didn't kill Lin Ping would probably die for other reasons, and the blame would still fall on him. Ultimately, it was because he was too weak. If this were yesterday, he would have been unable to turn the situation around. But now he had made up his mind. I must act fast and hope to succeed. Muttering to himself, Su Jingzhen directly used Lin Ping's handkerchief to cover the fatal wound on the back of his head, preventing fresh blood from flowing out. He then lifted the corpse and, under the cover of the dark night, took it out of the school. As the eastern sky was just beginning to lighten, Su Jingzhen pushed open the door of the quiet room, yawning casually, and began to clean up. Lin Ping's corpse had already been taken care of last night, and the bloodstains around the eaves had been washed away overnight. He had even used a small fireball technique to burn the surrounding area, ensuring that there was no trace of blood or corpse aura. It was the most basic of spells, something every cultivator would learn, and even the first skill every cultivator would master. Although its power was not great, it was still useful for handling these kinds of things. After casually sweeping away the fallen flowers, Su Jingzhen began to practice the python scale's power under the peach tree. At the same time, he waited for the other party to make a move. And at this time, the daily fixed points arrived on schedule. Zhang Ziyu still had 4 points, Shuangjiang still had 2 points, and the remaining points had increased to 9 points. Looking at the increasing points, perhaps it was the source of Su Jingzhen's daily good mood. Even though the reminder that had been stuck at the top for a long time, which said there were only 498 days left, didn't bother him. Su Jingzhen, open the door. Su Jingzhen, return my father's life. Zape. At this time, the school gates suddenly became noisy. Various knocking and shouting sounds erupted, and before he could even open the door, the school gate was already being pushed open with brute force. A group of 20 to 30 people rushed into the courtyard. Even though Su Jingzhen had been waiting for a long time, when he saw so many people, he was still taken aback. Walking at the front were 10 or so children, from 13 or 14 years old to just a few years old, including even infants in their mother's arms. Several women were crying behind them, calling out to the 2 young men beside them, saying things like, "Do something for us." Su Jingzhen recognized at a glance that these were Lin Ping's wives and children. Among them was a 12 or 13-year-old child, who was his former student, Lin Feng. At this time, the gazes of these people towards him were filled with hatred. Su Jingzhen's face showed a puzzled expression. "What's going on, everyone?" As he said this, his gaze unconsciously fell on the 2 young men beside them. From their uniforms, he knew they were Huiyang sect disciples. Chen Chong and those related to him were nowhere to be found. He had set up a perfect trap, but had completely removed himself from it. "Su Jingzhen, you killed Lin Ping, and you're coming with us to Huiyang sect." One of the Huiyang sect disciples directly sneered and said. Without any beating around the bush, they slapped a big hat on him. Su Jingzhen had not expected the other party to be so direct. As the 2 Huiyang sect disciples approached him, intending to directly seize Su Jingzhen, he subconsciously retreated 2 steps. "What are you talking about? What happened to Taoist Lin? How could I have killed Taoist Lin?" Su Jingzhen knew that the other party must have come prepared, and that these 2 Huiyang sect disciples were probably following orders. But he absolutely couldn't go with them, and if he really went along, he might never come back. Last night he had considered every aspect, but he hadn't expected the other party to be so overbearing. Now he had to stall for time. With such a commotion, it was unlikely that there wouldn't be onlookers. Sister-in-law Zhang Ziyu will definitely arrive soon. "You killed Lin Ping, we don't know how, but that's the fact. Come with me to Huiyang sect, and if you're innocent, we'll naturally let you go." One of the Huiyang sect disciples spoke again, still not intending to give Su Jingzhen an explanation. This was ridiculous. They didn't even need to give a reason for arresting him. They just wanted to take action directly. The 2 of them were already releasing their auras, one in the middle stage of Kai refinement, and the other was actually in the late stage of Kai refinement. Cultivators of this level, even if Su Jingzhen had some strength now, would still not be a match for them. Resistance would only lead to them taking drastic measures on the spot. They had brought Lin Ping's family to catch him, which meant they knew some inside information. If he died here, they could just pin the crime on him as they pleased. There were already many cultivators from Peach Blossom Alley gathered outside, but they were just onlookers. The one who could really help was Xianxia. So at this time, Su Jingzhen didn't hesitate and directly took out the rescue talisman. Spirit energy poured into it, and the next second, flames erupted into the sky. Seeing Su Jingzhen's actions, the two Huiyang sect disciples were stunned. Their faces darkened and their expressions turned cold. Su Jingzhen, what do you mean by this? Don't you trust us? The late-stage Kai refinement cultivator looked at him coldly, his aura already becoming menacing. No other meaning, I just want to get to the bottom of things, Su Jingzhen said, still stalling for time. As long as Zhang Ziyu arrived, he could turn the situation around. Moreover, the rescue talisman could still call for other Huiyang sect cultivators, and he didn't trust these two in front of him. Even if Huiyang sect disciples had to take a trip to collect a hefty protection fee, with his current wealth, he could still afford it. In a courtyard not far from the school, Zhang Ziyu was about to go out when she suddenly saw the flames rising into the sky. Someone's calling for help again. It's getting more and more chaotic. Wait, that location is Enlightenment School. After reacting, Zhang Ziyu's expression changed greatly. She immediately accelerated to full speed, heading towards the school direction. When Zhang Ziyu arrived at the school gate, there were already many people gathered, and her heart sank again. Don't let anything happen. Zhang Ziyu muttered to herself as she pushed through the crowd and rushed in. At this time, the two Huiyang sect disciples had already pushed Su Jingzhen into a desperate situation.
Stop!
Just as they were about to take action, Zhang Ziyu's voice suddenly rang out. Su Jingzhen only saw a black shadow flash by, and Zhang Ziyu was already standing in front of him. Taoist Chen, Taoist Wu, what's going on here? Why are you taking action against Mr. Su? Zhang Ziyu was familiar with many Huiyang sect disciples, and Chen Lin and Wu Song were not outstanding among them. They didn't get many resources within the sect, and usually relied on their Huiyang sect disciple identity to bully others in the alleys. Zhang Ziyu looked down on them. She was puzzled as to why Su Jingzhen would provoke them. In her eyes, Su Jingzhen was a kind and gentle friend, and it was impossible for him to take the initiative to cause trouble. If these two wanted to cause trouble, Zhang Ziyu wasn't one to be trifled with in Peach Blossom Alley. Don't worry, Mr. Su, I'm here. Zhang Ziyu said, turning her head to give Su Jingzhen a reassuring glance. At this time, Su Jingzhen's face was calm, and with Zhang Ziyu on his side, he had gained an advantage. Last night's events had been unexpectedly smooth, and as long as Huiyang sect couldn't forcibly take him away, the one who would end up in trouble wouldn't be him. Thank you, sister-in-law. Su Jingzhen responded calmly. At this time, Wu Song and Chen Lin's brows furrowed again. Taoist Zhang, Su Jingzhen killed Lin Ping, and were taking him back to Huiyang sect for questioning. Please don't interfere with Huiyang sect's business. Wu Song, although a late-stage Kai refinement cultivator, was only at the 7th layer of the late stage, and Zhang Ziyu was likely to have reached the 9th layer. He was still somewhat intimidated by Zhang Ziyu. However, Zhang Ziyu laughed scornfully at this. Ha ha, this is a huge joke. In Peach Blossom Alley, who doesn't know that Mr. Su is only a Kai refinement beginner, while Taoist Lin is a mid-stage Kai refinement cultivator. And Mr. Su has no conflicts with the world, he's just teaching here, so where's the motivation and ability to kill Lin Ping? Zhang Ziyu's tone was very strong. Wu Song and Chen Lin opened their mouths, but couldn't come up with a good reason. Wu Song then pointed at Lin Feng and the others, saying, "We wouldn't dare to come here and cause trouble without a reason, Madame Lin, you tell them." They were afraid of not being able to defeat Zhang Ziyu, but they still needed a reason to take Su Jingzhen away. When they heard this, a woman who had been crying in the back rushed forward, her gaze towards Su Jingzhen filled with endless hatred. "Sir, you must do justice for us. My husband, Lin Ping, had some unpleasantness with Su Jingzhen, and last night, after drinking, he came home and remembered the incident. He wanted to come and reason with Su Jingzhen, but we didn't think much of it, and this morning, we found that my husband's life tablet had shattered. At this point, Lin Ping's concubines also started crying. Madame Liu directly took out Lin Ping's life tablet, and it was indeed shattered. Some cultivators would choose to refine their life tablets to inform their families of their safety. So, who else could have killed my husband besides Su Jingzhen? As she finished speaking, these women and children again directed their hateful gazes towards Su Jingzhen. If gazes could kill, he would have died countless times already. These people's grief was not fake. After all, Lin Ping was dead, and the Lin family currently didn't have another cultivator, so their future was uncertain. But hearing this, Su Jingzhen's heart was not moved to explain. He was clear that at this time, he, the accused, had no right to speak. Moreover, this was ridiculous. Lin Ping was indeed killed by him. Wu Song, do you believe this kind of talk? Zhang Ziu's face also had a cold smile. Wu Song, of course, didn't know the truth, but his mission was just to bring Su Jingzhen back to Luoyang sect. He immediately said, "This isn't important. What's important is that all the evidence points to Su Jingzhen, so we have a duty to bring him back. You're also working for Luoyang sect. Don't you trust Luoyang sect's credibility?" Another big hat was slapped onto Zhang Ziu. Zhang Ziu remained calm and said, "I naturally believe in Luoyang sect, but I don't believe in you too. Since the rescue flames have already been sent out, I believe Luoyang sect will send people. When the time comes, they will investigate thoroughly, and if there is evidence that proves Su Jingzhen is the killer, I will naturally follow Luoyang sect's arrangements." With Zhang Ziu's cultivation, Wu Song and the others wanted to use Luoyang sect's name to pressure her, but she wasn't having it. At this time, the onlookers from Peach Blossom Alley were getting more and more numerous. Under the gaze of the crowd, Wu Song and Chen Lin's faces were getting increasingly difficult to look at. They had a feeling of riding a tiger and not being able to get off. To put it bluntly, they had taken on a private job, and if they could really prove that Su Jingzhen was the killer, that would be great. But if they made a fuss and couldn't prove it, they would definitely be in trouble when they went back. But the two of them weren't fools, and they knew that with Su Jingzhen's cultivation, it was impossible for him to have killed Lin Ping. So this trip was likely to end in failure, and the two of them were filled with hatred in their hearts. If they didn't know they couldn't defeat Zhang Ziu, they would have taken action long ago. They could only regret not having directly subdued Su Jingzhen when they first arrived. At around the same time, on the top floor of a building in Liu Alley, Chen Chong, dressed in elegant attire, stood by the window, gazing out at Peach Blossom Alley. Just now, that rescue signal fire was lit at the Enlightenment School's location. I wonder how things are going. It shouldn't be a big problem. Chen Lin and Wu Song may have messed up, but they shouldn't dare to disobey Jinqi's orders. But why is my heart still racing like this? Chen Chong muttered to himself, his eyes showing a hint of concern. The signal fire had also disrupted his peaceful state of mind. It was unclear whether it was because of the protection fee or because of their sense of responsibility, but within half a stick of incense time, 2 Luoyang sect cultivators arrived at the Enlightenment School. Both men were middle-aged, with an aura of power emanating from them, and the onlookers at the door parted to let them through. Both of their cultivations had reached the late stage of Kai refining, seemingly stronger than Zhang Ziu, and were likely grandmasters of Kai refining. Upon seeing the two arrive, Zhang Ziu took the lead in bowing. "Greetings, Taoist Wang, greetings, Taoist Zhang." From Zhang Ziu's actions, Su Jingzhen also knew that the visitor's status was likely to be quite high. The higher the visitor's status, the more beneficial it would be for this matter. Wu Song and Chen Lin immediately followed suit, bowing in respect. "Greetings, Master Wang, Master Zhang." After paying their respects, they stood to the side, their faces still looking difficult, never expecting that a single rescue signal could summon these two. Seeing Wu Song and Chen Lin here, Zhang and Wang's brows furrowed slightly, with a hint of doubt. Zhang Hong directly asked, "What's going on here? Is there a demonic cultivator's trail, who used the rescue signal just now?" As soon as he spoke, everyone's eyes widened in surprise. At this critical moment, The demonic cultivator who could instantly kill Wang Feng had put immense pressure on Luoyang sect. That's why they had directly dispatched 2 grandmasters of Kai refining. Su Jingzhen stepped forward, cupping his hands in respect. "Greetings, esteemed seniors. I used the rescue signal. I was forced to do so by Taoist Wu and Taoist Chen of Luoyang sect, and I had no choice but to use it to clear my name." Wu Song and Chen Lin were already standing on the opposite side, so Su Jingzhen didn't fear offending them completely. "What's going on? Explain clearly," Zhang Hong said again, his voice stern. Zhang Hong's face was dark, and his tone was authoritative. Su Jingzhen remained calm and objective, recounting the events of the day in detail. The onlookers were numerous, and he didn't add any embellishments, telling the story in a straightforward manner. After listening, Zhang Hong's gaze turned to Wu Song. "You tell me, is this how it happened?" In the midst of the crowd, the two of them didn't dare to lie. As the 2 seniors said, the events are basically true. Lin Ping's death has a great deal to do with Su Jingzhen, which is why we wanted to take him. As they spoke, their tone lacked confidence. "Many Taoist friends are renting residences in our Luoyang sect, and it's our duty to ensure their safety. We won't let anyone who disobeys Luoyang sect's rules go unpunished, but we also won't wrong any innocent person." After listening to this, Zhang and Wang's hearts were at ease. Zhang Hong immediately spoke up, his voice loud and clear. "This is a message to everyone present. Now, let's investigate. Start from this enlightenment school and find Lin Ping's corpse." As Zhang Hong's voice fell, the first ray of sunlight from the east horizon shone on the peach tree in the courtyard. Su Jingzhen's lips curled up into a faint smile. The Enlightenment School had only a few rooms, and with the abilities of the people present, it wouldn't be difficult to search the entire place. Zhang Hong's gaze then fell on Lin Ping's wife, Liu Shi. "Madam, please take out Taoist Lin's spirit tablet. This time, our Luoyang sect will definitely give you justice, but it seems that Taoist Su has no great relation to this matter." Zhang Hong's words were fair, and he was being upright. Liu Shi, though grieving, didn't dare to hesitate, and hurriedly handed over the broken spirit tablet. Zhang Hong lightly stroked it, and from his storage bag, he took out a paper crane. There was a drop of Lin Ping's true essence blood in the spirit tablet, which, although dried up, could still be used. Zhang Hong applied the blood to the paper crane, and with a few hand seals, the paper crane suddenly came to life, spreading its wings and flying away. At this moment, Su Jingzhen's heart skipped a beat. Because the paper crane flew directly to the quiet room door, circled around, and then flew out. This startled him, and he was reminded that a cultivator's abilities were unpredictable. He summarized the situation again, thinking that this time he had been lucky, but if there was even a slight mistake, he would be doomed. As the paper crane flew out of the school, Zhang Ziyu also let out a sigh of relief. At this time, Zhang Hong's gaze turned back to Su Jingzhen, smiling. "Taoist Su, you're no longer involved in this matter, but please settle the rescue fee, which is 20 low-grade spirit stones." "Oh no." Su Jingzhen's face revealed a painful expression. The onlookers also showed a hint of sympathy. "Mr. Su, this is truly a disaster without a cause. It's said that The school was already struggling to make ends meet, and now they had to pay 20 low-grade spirit stones, which was like adding insult to injury. "Zag," the onlookers whispered among themselves. "Luoyang sect has given you protection, but we can't just run errands for free, right? Please understand, Taoist Su." Zhang Hong's face still wore a smile, but this matter was non-negotiable. Seeing Su Jingzhen's troubled expression, Zhang Ziyu's heart was moved, and she wanted to help him pay the spirit stones. But after thinking about it, she restrained herself, not because she was unwilling to help, but because 20 low-grade spirit stones was not a small amount, and she currently had no way to help Su Jingzhen. Otherwise, there would be gossip, and she didn't want to drag Su Jingzhen down. Su Jingzhen sighed and took out the 20 low-grade spirit stones. "Thank you, Taoist Zhang and Taoist Wang, for this time." Although he was unhappy, he still had to express gratitude. What a miserable life this was. After receiving the spirit stones, Zhang Hong handed Su Jingzhen a rescue symbol. "If you need help, just call for rescue. Our Luoyang sect exists to protect your safety." As soon as he finished speaking, they chased after the paper crane. The onlookers also swarmed out, with Hujiang's sect leading the way, and they wanted to see who had killed Lin Ping. Lin Ping's family was stunned, but they also followed the crowd. As for Wu Song and Chen Lin, those two had already slipped away. At this point, Su Jingzhen's crisis was temporarily resolved. But he knew in his heart that this matter was only just beginning. This time he had counterattacked Chen Chong, and the other side would not let it go easily. He still needed to prepare more, and he needed to use his wits to counter his enemies, proving that his power was still too weak. Not long after, Chen Chong was in his attic. His eyelids were jumping wildly. Why haven't I received any news yet? He muttered to himself, his heart growing more anxious. Just then a voice came from outside the door. Master Lin Ping's corpse has been found. Upon hearing this, Chen Chong was overjoyed and immediately rushed out of the door, looking at the subordinate who reported to him. They finally found it, then Su Jingzhen was punished by Hujiang's sect, right? The subordinate's face suddenly tensed up, shaking his head. No, Lin Ping's corpse is in the deep well of our Kuiliu school. What did you say? In the Enlightenment school, only Su Jingzhen and Zhang Ziyu were left. Mr. Su, are you all right? Zhang Ziyu asked with concern in her eyes. Su Jingzhen smiled. If it weren't for sister-in-law, I'd be in trouble today. Since last night, Zhang Ziyu had been an essential part of his plan. Fortunately, Zhang Ziyu had not let him down. Your Danshan is in a difficult situation, and it's hard to make progress. As a single person, it's indeed time to consider the next generation. If the next generation has talented individuals, they can provide you with protection. Otherwise, it's too dangerous in the cultivation world. We've already offended Wu Song and Chen Lin, and who knows what might happen in the future. Zhang Ziyu's expression suddenly turned serious. As she spoke, her eyes shone with an unspoken brightness. Emotional connection +4. At this moment, a golden line flashed across Su Jingzhen's eyes. His points had increased to 13 again, but Su Jingzhen's heart was filled with anxiety. He knew that his emotional connection with Zhang Ziyu had already reached the level of mutual affection. Now that Zhang Ziyu had brought up this topic, he was afraid that she might say something that would make things difficult for both of them. After all, his current strength was still weak, and sister-in-law Zhang Ziyu, as a Dao companion, had a noble character that he respected. Both of them had their own concerns. Do you believe in sister-in-law, Mr. Su? Zhang Ziyu asked again. Su Jingzhen's anxiety grew, and Zhang Ziyu's mature and charming aura still lingered in her every move, even though she wasn't deliberately trying to seduce him. But he still said, to be honest, in Linjiang City, I only trust sister-in-law. This was the truth. However, it still stirred up Zhang Ziyu's emotions. Emotional connection +4. Zhang Ziyu opened her mouth, sighed softly, and smiled, then listened to sister-in-law this once and find a Dao companion to bet on the next generation. As soon as she said this, Su Jingzhen's heart skipped a beat. Before he could respond, Zhang Ziyu continued, Yesterday, I met a girl who also has spiritual roots. However, her situation is even more dire than yours. Her Danshan is broken, and her cultivation is completely gone. Now she just wants to find a safe haven and bet on the next generation. Perhaps she's suitable for you. As she finished speaking, Zhang Ziyu seemed to fear that Su Jingzhen wouldn't believe her, so she added, I told you before that there's a secret treasure on Clear Wind Mountain. These past 2 days, more and more people have been flooding into Linjiang City. They've made some discoveries on Clear Wind Mountain, and there have been countless battles, with many people dying at the hands of the mountain's demonic beasts. Yet people still keep coming. As she spoke of this, Zhang Ziyu's face turned grave. Zhang Ziyu continued, the girl I mentioned also went to Clear Wind Mountain, and her Danshan was broken in the battle. Fortunately, she was lucky and managed to preserve her life. Su Jingzhen's heart stirred, and he knew what it was like to have a broken Danshan. As soon as he heard this, he could empathize with her. Before he could respond, Zhang Ziyu's gaze fixed on him. And now you must find a Dao companion. If you trust sister-in-law, I'll go get her for you. This time, it's definitely going to work. Zhang Ziyu still had a hint of guilt in her heart from the previous failed blind date. Su Jingzhen nodded. What else could he say? He knew Zhang Ziyu was genuinely trying to help him, and if he refused, Zhang Ziyu might even offer herself as a Dao companion. Okay. Zhang Ziu's face finally revealed a hint of joy. However, there was still a hint of hidden regret in her eyes. That girl might not be very beautiful, but I know you're not a superficial person who only looks at appearances. With that, Zhang Ziu left immediately. It wasn't until Zhang Ziu disappeared from the school gate that Su Jingzhen let out a bitter laugh. What was going on here? Zhang Ziu was supposed to be helping him out, but how did it turn into a blind date again? Oh wait, that wasn't right. Zhang Ziu seemed to have a good grasp of the situation this time, and maybe the blind date process could be skipped. In any case, with his current foundation, taking in someone with a broken dantian wouldn't be a problem. This way, it would also make it easier for sister-in-law Zhang Ziu and him to get along. He glanced at the panel, and his remaining points had increased to 17. He smiled and began practicing the Python scale's power under the peach tree. He didn't bother to inquire about Chen Chong's situation. He knew that even if Chen Chong had been played, with Chen Chong's connections and foundation, it was impossible for him to be taken down so easily. Compared to Chen Chong's situation, he was more concerned about why his actions had been so smooth last night. From the Enlightenment School to the Kuiliu School, everything had gone so smoothly, as if it had been rehearsed beforehand. He couldn't understand it, but he didn't think too much about it, just assuming he was a chosen one. After practicing the Python scale's power once, sister-in-law Zhang Ziu still hadn't arrived, so he didn't continue. Today, he was supposed to go buy some beast meat and other food to help with his cultivation. Now he could only wait, and he couldn't just leave Zhang Ziu hanging. After waiting for about half an hour, Su Jingzhen's keen ears picked up the sound of conversation coming from outside the door. He stood up and adjusted his clothes. Soon, two figures appeared outside the door, Zhang Ziu and the girl she had brought. However, when Su Jingzhen saw the person following behind Zhang Ziu, he rubbed his eyes in disbelief. But even if he rubbed his eyes until they were sore, he couldn't change the scene before him. The pitiful girl with a broken dantian, the clear-wind mountain failure. It was none other than Shuangjiang. He swallowed hard and his mind was blown. At this moment, Su Jingzhen could even see a hint of cunning in Shuangjiang's eyes when she looked at him. She wore a black practice uniform, simple and neat, and the scars on her face were still gruesome, but she didn't try to hide them, revealing them openly. Su Jingzhen was completely stunned, and he didn't care how Shuangjiang had hooked up with Zhang Ziu. It shouldn't be difficult for someone with her skills. But he didn't know what kind of trickery was going on here. He wouldn't believe that Shuangjiang's dantian was really broken. However, he did feel a hint of excitement in his heart. Was this a case of lost and found? With Shuangjiang around, wouldn't his points skyrocket? As long as he was careful, the opening of the surging spring secret would be imminent. And at this moment, he suddenly thought of something. Could it be that Shuangjiang was related to the smooth progress of his actions last night? This thought made him freeze again. Hee, don't be stunned, I've brought her to you. You two should get acquainted. Zhang Ziu smiled at Su Jingzhen. This girl is Shuangjiang, and you're Su Jingzhen, perhaps your names are a kind of fate. Su Jingzhen came back to his senses and smiled at Shuangjiang. I'm Su Jingzhen, nice to meet you, Shuangjiang. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and like the video and comment down if anything wrong in the story.